bicycles in front of them, and they're all standing there in a line. There is a SWAT truck there as well. And as people start getting right back in, then the police officers deploy that tear gas again. If that's going to be tear gas or if that's going to be another heavy police presence right there, just walking with cars and trucks and getting out. We just saw a police car speed by us going the other side. He pulled out very, very quickly, and traffic is free-flowing. Most of that police presence are going, and I think most of the people, that is where they went. We are getting word that people did go to the police precinct. Well, imagine spending 2 decades behind bars and finally getting out and then being told, wait a second, we made a mistake. You got to go back in for 10 more years. At TNGOP, that's the Twitter handle right there. Well, dating apps have taken over in the past few years, and this is how it happens among many millennials. We're lying here on the couch just swiping through, hoping that next swipe could be your soulmate. Well, 61 was when animal control took them about a month ago. Now they're all doing what rabbits do, multiplying. There's now more than 110 of them, and we could do away with all of that hassle. And some farmers love the idea. You pick up one of these little debris, and this thing is, you know, I'm 6'5". This is probably 12, 13, 14 feet tall. That's when the man says the clerk grabbed a BB gun from behind the counter and pointed at him, saying something about having a bad day. The drag queens say the protesters are spreading hate, but protesters say drag queens are the intolerant ones. Imagine every person in your town personally calling you every time they have a major issue. That's effectively what's happening here. There are about 1,900 people who live in Olive Ridge Top, and only one single police officer for all of them. Well, it doesn't take very long to get ordained online. Here's my Credentials of Ministry certificate. But they also take advantage of all 4 downs, so they never do this. Punt. They never punt the ball. Let's say you want to spend a few hours downtown. That's going to cost you about 30 bucks. Now, for that amount of money, you could get 7 Big Macs or feed your whole family at McDonald's. Or you could go to Starbucks and get about 15 cups of coffee. Or that money could fill up at least most of your gas tank. Here's exactly how most people see Paul O'Neill, through their passenger side window on the side of the road somewhere, just telling drivers the exact same story. Parents are often worried about their kids getting into drugs, but there is something else they should be worried about, and it's really not all that surprising. Some say there's no such thing as love at first sight.
I saw her coming from far away and I was like, that's my baby.
And some say those people are wrong.
And at the airport, when she first wrapped her arms around me, it was just like meeting your child for the first time.
This is Nastia.
Yes.
Mama.
And who's this?
Sister. Papa.
A 15-year-old Ukrainian orphan hoping for a miracle. And this is the picture that melted this Galton family's heart.
We knew she was supposed to be our daughter, so.
You wouldn't think they just met Nastia this week. First off, they already have her picture in the living room next to theirs, and they do everything as a family, from making cupcakes to having game nights. Nastia doesn't speak English, but she does know one word, love, which she wrote on every person's Christmas present. Matt and Hope McClure have 3 kids of their own. He's a musician. They've been volunteering and helping kids for years, and when they heard Nastia's story, they realized
Adoption was really the only way to truly help her and change her life.
her birthday is next month, and once a child in a Ukrainian orphanage turns 16, they're no longer eligible to be adopted and are sent out on the streets to fend for themselves.
It's just sickening to think about what these kids go through when they're just put out on the street.
They don't even survive sometimes until their 18th birthday.
It's dangerous, especially for girls, many of whom become victims of human trafficking. So what's stopping them? Money. They need about $33,000 more to pay for adoption fees. They've set up a GoFundMe, and they need the money by the end of December. Otherwise, this won't happen. And as heartbreaking as it is for them to think about that, they believe in miracles and know nothing can stop God's plan.
It has to happen. It will happen. We're not going to lose her. We're going to fight for her.
About 5 foot off the grounds out there where there's no water, it's probably about a foot and a half, almost 2 foot. You get right out here in the middle and you're probably 2 foot, easy.
That's Waylon Fellers, and this is his brother's house. And if you think the front yard is bad, here's what the backyard looks like. Fellers says the place does flood when it rains a lot, but this is the first time he's ever seen it get this high. And while this is bad, he knows some people have it even worse.
I've seen some down here where people can't get out of their house.
We need a boat.
Yeah, inner tube to float in.
This was all clear when the Ray family went to bed last night, but they woke up this morning.
Opened the door and realized we couldn't really get to the car without wading through water.
They're right off of Shacklet Road, and Fellers is just a couple miles down. Miraculously, neither of them have water in their homes. The Rays just moved in a year and a half ago and say the last time this happened, it was a good couple days until they could get out.
We like the house and everything, but this is kind of frustrating. A drainage system would be neat.
It's also inconvenient because they can't go to work. They own a barbershop called Doing Hair Underground, and they had to cancel all of the appointments because they can't get their car.
Yeah, it's just a matter of trying to look professional and wet all at the same time. You know, you got to take an extra change of clothes and shoes and everything.
Several roads are also closed in the area, but that is not stopping people from trying to use them anyways.
Sure, thank you very much. You have a good day.
It's a daily ritual for Chad Fox and his dog, manning the intersection of Old Hickory Boulevard and Highway 100. Sure, people don't like panhandlers, but that's not what bothers these Bellevue residents the most. It's how long he's been there.
He's been given help. He's been given a truck. He's been given a place to live. He's been offered jobs multiple times. Turns them all down.
Tyler Blair lives right down the street.
I work very, very hard. I work very hard. Too hard to see people just hanging out asking for money for nothing.
He passes Chad every single day and says one day it all just finally hit him.
I think it was just more of a built-up thing where every day it builds and it builds and it builds.
So he painted this sign and went out to the corner right next to Chad. But Chad says this one got a little heated.
If you want to express yourself in a sane way, do it. You know, I'm completely all right with that. I don't like getting threatened, though.
I straight up told him, I was like, you can get out of here. No one wants you here. I don't want you here. You can leave.
Chad drove a forklift for 5 years, but says now he feels stuck. He has no idea what he wants to do.
I know I don't want to do this for my whole life, of course.
He says that next job has to be something he wants to do for the rest of his life. He won't take a job that he doesn't like or will get bored with and end up quitting.
I don't want to hop around from a convenience store to a fast food, you know, a different job every 6 months.
Blair says he doesn't want anything bad to happen. He just wants Chad to get a job. Some people have a need for speed.
It's mentally exhausting.
They just didn't know it.
This is my first time.
This was a bucket list item for Rick Thomas.
A 2013 Camaro ZL1. It's got a top speed of 180 miles an hour that I'll probably never see.
And he's probably right, because at this track, it's about more than just speed.
Anybody can go fast and straight, so the straights are fun, but really it's working those curves and understanding how that works, how the car works with you.
We teach you about hand position. We teach you about where to have your eyes. We teach you about shifting points and braking points.
Eric Diamond is one of the volunteers with the Sports Car Club of America.
And I love getting the student that's never done this before and putting him into a car.
And I would be an example of that kind of student.
The first lap, they're all wide-eyed and scared out of their mind and have no idea what's going to happen.
The SCCA puts on the event. You can rent a race car or bring your own regular car to see what it can do.
How to drive your car correctly, how to come into the turns and how to leave the turns properly.
Hundreds of split-second decisions every second.
It is an all-day thing. You spend some time in the classroom before going out with a coach to perfect your skills, and these skills go beyond the track.
You start looking at turns differently. You start looking at the off-ramp to your house differently. You start looking at braking differently.
And if you're just looking for an adrenaline rush, well, here's your chance to get it.
They watch NASCAR, they watch F1, they watch Indy. This is actually where you can come out and experience it rather than just sitting on the couch and watching it.
Between protesters, supporters, and people who just wanted to use the library and had no idea what was going on, Saturday's Story Hour at the Putnam County Library may have had its biggest turnout ever. Here's what happened. This is Miss Kitty reading to the kids. She does drag as a hobby.
My expression, what I like to do for fun.
And she says there's nothing wrong with that. She was excited because it's her first time reading to children.
I was a preschool teacher in the past. I love kids.
But a bunch of people had a problem with this.
We believe God made man and God made woman, and we don't believe in all this gender dysphoria mess.
That's Pastor Dale Walker. He and all these other people say the library is not a place for social agendas.
It ought to be a neutral environment. They feel that it bullies the innocence of the children that are in there.
The two sides are at a fundamental disagreement. The drag queens say the protesters are spreading hate, but protesters say drag queens are the intolerant ones, and they're the ones trying to silence religious freedom.
The ultimate goal is to silence the Christians that are against anything to do with LGBT, that believe in traditional marriage.
All the yelling, telling people they're going to hell, that's not what God's about.
And then there's the library, just caught in the crossfire. Director Phil Schaller says the library is a designated public forum.
We cannot, by law, discriminate against any group who wants to use those meeting rooms.
He says they don't sponsor events. People just reach out to them to use the rooms. He knew there might be some backlash, but didn't think it would be this extreme.
We are open 240 hours a month. This is 1 hour of that.
Here's a paved spot, and a crack, and another paved spot, and another crack. That's how most of Saundersville Road is, and saying that people who live here are unhappy is an understatement. Jason Lassiter has lived here for almost 4 years.
Right now, it's an obstacle course. You know, I feel like a war zone is what my neighbors joke about when they go over it.
That's how bad it's gotten. People are so frustrated, they're turning to humor.
A police officer's behind you. Sir, are you driving drunk? No, I'm dodging the potholes, you know what I'm saying?
But the city is trying. Mayor Jamie Clary also lives right next to the road, and he's also frustrated. He says in the past several years they've seen a huge increase in traffic and houses, but the city has neglected some of the road maintenance because of other priorities.
Some roads just haven't been repaved in probably 20 years.
He says they need about $1 million to do this road right, but they no longer have that much money because a few months ago, the board reallocated about $1.5 million from the paving budget for a fire hall and some administrative offices. Now they're working on at least patching up the worst parts of the road. He said another challenge is prioritizing what roads need the most attention.
The way we prioritize the roads was not just the ones that were in bad shape, but the ones that were in bad shape and had the most traffic.
He says infrastructure overall is one of the top 3 priorities, and paving is the biggest part of that. They will have some more money coming in soon, but he is looking at other ways to get those funds. Right now, cutting some parts of the garbage services is the leading candidate.